The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Café Lumière, casting a warm glow across the polished wooden tables and Art Deco fixtures. Located in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, the cafe had built a reputation for its exceptional brunch menu and relaxed atmosphere that attracted a diverse clientele, from local business professionals to the occasional celebrity seeking a low-key dining experience away from paparazzi. For Sofia Rodriguez, this Thursday morning was already proving more challenging than usual. At 32, she had mastered the art of balancing 3 plates on one arm while navigating the crowded floor of the cafe where she had worked for the past 4 years. But today, she was managing an additional, far more precious balancing act. Her 7-year-old daughter, Luna, sat at the corner table near the staff room, surrounded by colored pencils and a well-worn sketchbook. "Mom, I finished another drawing," Luna called out as Sophia passed by with a tray of lattes. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Sophia replied with a warm smile. "I'll come see it as soon as I deliver these." When her regular babysitter had called in sick with the flu and school was closed for a teacher planning day, Sophia had faced the working parent's dreaded dilemma. Her boss, Marco, had reluctantly agreed to let Luna stay in the corner during the morning shift, provided she remained quiet and out of the way. So far, the arrangement was working. Luna was a naturally reserved child who could spend hours immersed in her artwork, occasionally looking up to observe the bustling cafe with curious brown eyes. As Sophia served the lattes to a group of young professionals engaged in animated conversation about a film project, she glanced at her daughter with a mixture of pride and that ever-present worry that shadowed single parenthood. Luna's father had never been in the picture, a brief relationship during Sophia's art school days that had ended before she even discovered she was pregnant. She had made peace with raising Luna alone, but moments like today highlighted the tightrope she walked daily. "Excuse me, miss." A woman at table 7 raised a manicured hand. "This isn't what I ordered. I specifically asked for oat milk, not almond." Sophia apologized and promised to correct the order immediately, adding it to her mental checklist as she moved gracefully between tables. The morning rush was in full swing, and Marco was giving her pointed looks from behind the espresso machine, silently communicating his stress about the growing line at the counter. Amidst the controlled chaos, the cafe door opened, admitting a tall man dressed in simple dark jeans and a well-worn leather jacket. His longish dark hair partially obscured his face as he scanned the room, seemingly looking for a quiet corner. Finding none, he settled at a small table near Luna's corner, his movements carrying a centered calmness that contrasted with the frenetic energy of the cafe. Sophia, balancing a tray of breakfast plates, made a mental note to get to his table as soon as possible. There was something vaguely familiar about him, but in a city like Los Angeles, faces often carried that strange quality of recognition, the result of glimpses on screens both large and small. As she finally approached his table, notepad in hand, she offered her standard greeting. "Good morning. Welcome to Café Lumière. Can I get you started with something to drink?" The man looked up, and Sophia felt a jolt of recognition. Behind the casual attire and slight beard was unmistakably Keanu Reeves, the actor whose face had graced countless movie posters and whose reputation for kindness had become almost as well known as his films. "Just coffee, please," he said with a gentle smile. "Black is fine." "Of course," Sophia replied, maintaining her professional composure despite her surprise. Celebrities weren't uncommon in Los Angeles eateries, and Café Lumière had an unspoken policy of treating famous patrons with the same respectful normalcy as anyone else. "Would you like to see a menu, or do you need a few minutes?" "A few minutes would be great, thank you," he replied, his voice carrying that distinctive calm resonance that had narrated countless films. As Sophia turned to fetch his coffee, she caught Luna watching the exchange with unusual interest. Her daughter typically paid little attention to the cafe patrons, preferring the world inside her sketchbook, but something about this particular customer had captured her attention. Returning with the coffee, Sophia noticed that Keanu had taken out a book, not a phone or tablet, but an actual paperback with a worn spine that suggested frequent reading. The gesture struck her as charmingly analog in the digital age. "Here's your coffee," she said, placing it carefully on the table. Have you had a chance to look at the menu? I'll have the avocado toast with poached eggs, he replied, and maybe a side of the seasonal fruit. Excellent choice, Sophia nodded, jotting down the order. As she finished writing, she heard a commotion behind her, the clatter of pencils falling to the floor and the quick patter of small feet. Before she could turn around, Luna had darted past her and was standing directly in front of Keanu Reeves, her eyes wide with an emotion Sophia couldn't immediately identify. Dad? Luna said, her voice a mixture of question and declaration that echoed loudly enough to turn heads at nearby tables. The cafe seemed to freeze in that moment. Sophia felt her heart drop to her stomach, embarrassment and confusion washing over her in equal measure. Keanu looked up from his book, surprise evident on his face as he met the earnest gaze of the 7-year-old before him. Luna! Sophia quickly moved to her daughter's side, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. I'm so sorry, she said to Keanu, her cheeks burning. She has a very active imagination. But Luna wasn't backing down. She stood firmly in place, studying Keanu's face with the intense focus children sometimes possess. You look just like him, she insisted. Just like my dad in the picture. The next few moments unfolded in a blur for Sophia. She managed to guide Luna back to her corner table, whispering apologies to Keanu and promising to return with his order soon. Her mind raced as she tried to make sense of Luna's outburst. What picture was Luna talking about? Sophia had never shown her daughter any photos of her biological father. There weren't any to show. In the kitchen, as she placed Keanu's order with the chef, Marco approached with a concerned expression. Everything okay out there? Mrs. Henderson at table 5 said your daughter caused some kind of scene with a customer. Sophia sighed. It's fine. Just a misunderstanding. Luna thought she recognized someone. Marco's expression remained skeptical. Sophia, I agreed to let Luna stay today as an exception, but if it's going to disrupt service, it won't happen again, Sophia assured him firmly. I promise. When she returned to check on Luna, she found her daughter back at her sketchbook, but instead of drawing, she was flipping through earlier pages with determination. Luna, honey, we need to talk about what just happened, Sophia began gently. You can't run up to customers like that, and you shouldn't call strangers dad. It can make people uncomfortable. Luna looked up, her expression earnest. But Mom, look! She turned her sketchbook around to reveal a drawing she had created weeks earlier, a figure that, with the impressive detail of Luna's developing artistic talent, bore a striking resemblance to Keanu Reeves. Sophia stared at the drawing in confusion. Luna, who is this supposed to be? It's my dad, Luna replied matter-of-factly. I dreamed about him. He was wearing a black coat and fighting bad guys, but then he was reading me stories and teaching me to ride a bike. I draw him sometimes when I think about what he might be like. The realization dawned on Sophia slowly. Luna, who had recently begun asking more questions about her absent father, had apparently constructed an elaborate fantasy around what he might be like, and had somehow landed on an image that coincidentally resembled Keanu Reeves. Perhaps she had glimpsed him in a movie poster or on a billboard. Los Angeles was full of them. Sweetheart, Sophia said carefully, that man isn't your father. He's an actor named Keanu Reeves. You might have seen his picture somewhere and incorporated it into your imagination about your dad. Luna's expression fell, a shadow of disappointment crossing her face. But he looks just like in my dream. Sophia's heart ached for her daughter. She had always tried to be honest about Luna's father, explaining that he wasn't part of their lives without vilifying him. But she had perhaps underestimated Luna's need to fill that void with something concrete. I know it's hard sometimes not having a dad around, Sophia said softly. But you and I are a great team, right? And it's okay to imagine and draw pictures, but we have to respect other people's boundaries too. Luna nodded reluctantly, returning to her drawing with slightly less enthusiasm than before. Sophia squeezed her shoulder gently before returning to her duties, her mind still processing the strange coincidence of her daughter's imagination aligning so closely with the actual appearance of the actor now sitting in their cafe. When Keanu's order was ready, Sophia approached his table with a mixture of professional composure and lingering embarrassment. Here's your avocado toast and seasonal fruit, she said, placing the plates before him. I want to apologize again for my daughter. She's been creating stories about her father, who isn't in our lives, and somehow you fit the image she's constructed in her mind. Keanu looked up with a thoughtful expression, his eyes kind. No apology necessary, he said. Children have powerful imaginations. It's actually a compliment to be cast in the role of a father figure. His gracious response eased some of Sophia's tension. Still, I hope it didn't make you uncomfortable. Not at all, he assured her. Is that her over there drawing? He nodded toward Luna's corner. Yes, that's Luna. She's quite the artist already, takes after me in that way. I studied art before I became a full-time waitress and mom. Keanu smiled. Art is a wonderful outlet. I'd love to see what she's working on, if that's okay with both of you. Sophia blinked in surprise at his interest. That's very kind of you. Let me ask her. When Sophia approached Luna's table, her daughter looked up with hopeful eyes. Is he mad at me? No, sweetheart. Actually, he asked if he could see your drawings. Luna's face lit up. Really? He wants to see them? Only if you want to show him, Sophia clarified. It's completely up to you. Luna nodded eagerly, gathering her sketchbook with reverent hands. Together, they walked over to Keanu's table, where he had finished most of his breakfast. Mr. Reeves, this is my daughter, Luna. Luna, this is Keanu Reeves. He's an actor who appears in movies. Hello, Luna. Keanu greeted her with genuine warmth. Your mom tells me you're an artist. I'd be honored to see your work if you'd like to show me. Luna, suddenly shy in the face of her imagination made flesh, carefully placed her sketchbook on the table and opened it to a page showing a cityscape with impressive perspective for a 7-year-old. This is amazing, Keanu said, studying the drawing with genuine interest. You have a great eye for detail. Encouraged by his response, Luna turned to more pages, explaining each drawing with growing confidence. Sophia watched the interaction with a mixture of emotions, gratitude for his kindness, lingering embarrassment over the misunderstanding, and a poignant awareness of what Luna was missing in her life. As the morning progressed, Sophia continued her waitressing duties while keeping an eye on Luna, who had returned to her corner with a renewed enthusiasm for her art after the brief interaction with Keanu. To her surprise, the actor lingered over his meal, occasionally glancing toward Luna with what seemed like thoughtful consideration. When Sophia brought his check, he looked up with an expression that suggested he had been mulling something over. I hope this isn't inappropriate, he began carefully, but I'm currently involved with an arts program for children called Create Tomorrow. We provide mentorship and resources for kids who show artistic promise. Your daughter has remarkable talent for her age. Sophia felt a flutter of surprise. That's very kind of you to say. The program meets on Saturday mornings at the Community Arts Center downtown, he continued, writing something on a napkin. This is the contact information, if you're interested. There's no cost. It's fully funded by a foundation I work with. Sophia accepted the napkin with a sense of unreality. That's incredibly generous, but why would you do this, especially after what happened earlier? Keanu smiled, that same gentle expression that had made millions of moviegoers feel somehow personally connected to him. Because talent deserves nurturing, regardless of the circumstances under which we meet. And perhaps because I understand something about growing up with an absent father myself. This personal revelation, offered so simply, caught Sophia off guard. Before she could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew their attention. A group of patrons had entered, and one had clearly recognized Keanu, the excited whispers and pointed looks spreading quickly through the cafe. I should probably go, Keanu said, his expression shifting subtly toward a more guarded composure. But please consider the program for Luna. It's a good community. As he stood to leave, he stopped by Luna's table, crouching down to her level. Keep drawing, Luna, Sophia heard him say. The worlds you create matter. Luna nodded solemnly, clutching her pencil with renewed purpose. I will. Thank you for not being mad that I thought you were my dad. Sometimes our imagination shows us possibilities we hadn't considered, he replied with a gentle smile. It's a gift, not a mistake. With that, he left a generous tip on his table and made his way toward the exit, offering small nods of acknowledgement to the now buzzing patrons but maintaining the aura of privacy that seemed to surround him like a protective shield. After he left, Sophia found herself holding the napkin with the program information, a strange mixture of emotions swirling within her. The morning had taken a turn she could never have anticipated when she'd reluctantly brought Luna to work. "Mom," Luna called, interrupting her thoughts. "I'm drawing a new picture. It's not of a dad anymore. It's about possibilities." For the next 2 days, Sophia found herself contemplating the napkin with the program information. Part of her wondered if it had all been a strange dream. Had Keanu Reeves really invited her daughter to an arts program after Luna mistakenly called him Dad in a cafe? Yet the napkin was real, with its hastily scribbled address and contact name. A quick internet search confirmed that the Create Tomorrow program existed and was indeed associated with a foundation that listed Keanu Reeves among its benefactors. "What do you think, Luna?" Sophia asked on Friday evening as they sat at their small kitchen table in their apartment, sharing a pizza. "Would you like to try this art program tomorrow?" Luna, who had been uncharacteristically thoughtful since the cafe incident, nodded slowly. "Yes, please. But Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. Are you disappointed that I made up stories about having a dad?" Her voice was small, vulnerable in a way that made Sophia's heart constrict. Sophia set down her pizza slice and reached for Luna's hand. "Not at all, Luna. I understand why you think about what he might be like. It's natural to wonder about that part of your life." "But I made that man uncomfortable," Luna persisted. "I saw your face get all red." "Mr. Reeves wasn't uncomfortable," Sophia assured her. "He was very understanding. And yes, I was embarrassed for a moment, but not because of you. Because of the situation. There's a difference." Luna seemed to consider this. "He was nice. Not like a movie star, but like a regular person who's just nice." "That's a good observation," Sophia agreed. "And you know what? It's okay to still imagine what your dad might be like. It's okay to create stories and pictures. That's part of processing your feelings." Luna nodded, her expression brightening slightly. "Maybe someday I'll meet my real dad. But even if I don't, I can keep drawing and imagining." "Exactly," Sophia said, feeling a surge of pride at her daughter's resilience. "And now you have this opportunity to learn more about art from people who can teach you new techniques." "Do you think Mr. Reeves will be there tomorrow?" Luna asked, a hint of excitement creeping into her voice. "I don't know, honey. He might be, but even if he's not, this program sounds like it could be really good for you." As Luna went to bed that night, Sophia found herself staring at the napkin again, wondering about the strange confluence of events that had led to this moment. Her daughter's imagination, a celebrity's kindness, and the ever-present thread of absence that had shaped both their lives had somehow woven together to create an unexpected opportunity. The Community Arts Center was a renovated warehouse in a revitalized part of downtown Los Angeles. As Sophia and Luna approached the entrance on Saturday morning, they could hear music and children's voices from within. A hand-painted sign reading "Create Tomorrow" hung above the door, alongside colorful murals that spanned the building's facade. Inside, the space opened into a large studio divided into various activity stations. About 20 children of different ages were engaged in various arts, some painting at easels, others working with clay, and a few in a corner that appeared dedicated to digital arts. Adult mentors moved between groups, offering guidance and encouragement. A woman with bright blue hair and paint-splattered overalls approached them with a welcoming smile. "Hello, are you new to the program?" "Yes," Sophia replied, still holding Luna's hand. "We were told about it by Keanu Reeves, actually." She felt slightly absurd saying it out loud. The woman's smile widened with recognition. "Ah, you must be Luna. Kay mentioned you might be joining us. He was quite impressed with your artistic instincts." "Kay?" Sophia questioned. "That's what the kids call him here," the woman explained. "I'm Maya, the program director. Kay founded this program with us about 3 years ago, but he prefers to stay in the background. He stops by when he can, works with the kids one-on-one sometimes." Luna was already gazing around the studio with wide-eyed wonder. "Can I try the paints?" she asked, pointing to an empty easel. "Of course," Maya replied. "That's Thomas over by the painting station. He'll get you set up with everything you need." As Luna eagerly made her way to the painting area, Sophia turned to Maya with lingering questions. This is all free? No catch? Maya's expression softened with understanding. Completely free. The foundation covers all costs, materials, instruction, even transportation for families who need it. Kay believes every child deserves access to creative expression, regardless of their circumstances. It's just unusual, Sophia admitted. The way we met him was so random, and Luna actually mistook him for her father, which was mortifying. I would have understood if he'd just wanted to finish his meal and leave, but instead he recognized something special in your daughter, Maya finished for her. That's who he is. Genuine kindness isn't actually that complicated, though it can sometimes feel rare in this city. As they spoke, Sophia noticed a tall figure enter through a side door. Keanu, dressed similarly to how he had been at the cafe, carrying what appeared to be art supplies. Several children called out Kay as he entered, and he greeted them with warm familiarity. When he spotted Sophia, he offered a small wave but didn't immediately approach, seemingly giving her and Luna space to acclimate to the environment without pressure. You can stay and observe if you'd like, Maya offered. Many parents do, especially the first time. Or there's a coffee shop next door if you need a break. We go until noon. I think I'll stay, Sophia decided, finding a seat along the wall where she could watch Luna, who was already fully absorbed in mixing paints under Tomas's guidance. Throughout the morning, Sophia observed the natural rhythm of the studio. The mentors were clearly professionals in their respective arts, but they approached teaching with a gentleness that encouraged rather than critiqued. The children moved between stations as their interests dictated, with no rigid structure beyond basic safety rules. Keanu moved through the space not as a celebrity but as a fellow mentor, sitting with children individually, listening intently to their explanations of their work, offering suggestions only when asked. There was a naturalness to his interactions that spoke of genuine interest rather than charitable obligation. Eventually, he made his way to Luna, who had progressed from experimenting with colors to creating a complex landscape that incorporated elements of fantasy, floating islands and impossible bridges connecting them. Sophia watched as he crouched beside her daughter, saying something that made Luna laugh. They seemed to fall into conversation easily, with Luna gesturing animatedly toward her painting, and Keanu nodding with serious consideration of her artistic choices. After about 15 minutes, he stood and made his way toward where Sophia sat. She's remarkable, he said without preamble, taking the seat beside her. Not just talented, but she has ideas, concepts beyond technical skill. Thank you, Sophia replied, feeling a strange mixture of pride and lingering self-consciousness about their unusual connection. This program is incredible. I had no idea something like this existed. We try to keep it low profile, Keanu explained. It allows the kids to be themselves without pressure or spectacle. A comfortable silence fell between them as they both watched Luna, who was now adding meticulous details to her painted world. I wanted to thank you, Sophia said finally, not just for recommending the program, but for how you handled Luna's mistake at the cafe. Many people would have been uncomfortable or dismissive. Keanu's expression remained thoughtful. It wasn't a mistake in the truest sense. Children have intuitive ways of expressing needs and filling absences. She needs a father figure, and her imagination provided one. Still, most people wouldn't have responded with such kindness. He shrugged slightly, a gesture that seemed to deflect praise rather than seek it. I grew up with a complicated family situation myself. My father wasn't consistently present. I understand something about creating alternate narratives to make sense of absence. This personal revelation, offered without drama or self-pity, struck Sophia deeply. There was something powerful in the simple acknowledgement of shared experience, not identical, but resonant. Do you think it damages children, she asked, giving voice to a fear that had haunted her since Luna was born. Growing up without a father? Keanu considered the question with the seriousness it deserved. I think children need love, stability, and honest answers to their questions. The configuration of who provides those things matters less than their presence. Luna clearly has all three. His words eased something in Sophia's chest, a knot of worry she had carried for 7 years, wondering if her best would ever be enough. "I'd like her to continue with the program," she said, making the decision in that moment. "If that's okay." "We'd be honored to have her," Keanu replied. "And just so you know, I'm not always here on Saturdays. I'm often working or traveling, but the mentors are consistent. Tomas, who's working with Luna now, has a master's in fine arts and teaches at UCLA. It's incredible that you've created this space," Sophia observed. "Most people in your position would just write a check and consider their charitable obligations fulfilled." A small smile crossed his face. "Showing up matters more than writing checks. Connection matters more than recognition." He glanced at his watch. "I should check on the sculpture group. They're working on a collaborative piece today." As he stood to leave, Sophia was struck by the genuine simplicity of his presence, how he carried his fame so lightly, using it as a tool to create rather than a platform for ego. "Mr. Reeves, Keanu," she called as he began to walk away. Luna was right about one thing in her imagination. He turned, a question in his expression. The kind of father she dreamed of, someone who listens, who encourages her art, who sees her potential, that part wasn't so far off. A shadow of something, perhaps recognition, perhaps memory, crossed his face before settling into a gentle smile. The greatest gift we can give children is to see them clearly, exactly as they are. You've clearly given her that foundation. I'm just happy to provide another space where that vision can grow. With that, he returned to the children, soon absorbed in helping shape a large clay structure that seemed to be evolving into a fantastical tree. By noon, when the session ended, Luna was vibrating with excitement about her painting and the techniques she had learned. As they walked home, she chattered enthusiastically about Tomas teaching her how to create depth with color layering and how another girl named Zoe had shown her a trick for creating realistic clouds. "And Kay said my islands looked like they had stories inside them waiting to be told," she added, her voice filled with pride. "He said next time, if I want, I could try writing stories to go with my paintings." "That sounds wonderful," Sophia replied, her heart full at seeing her daughter so inspired. "Would you like to go back next Saturday?" "Yes, please." Luna's response was immediate and emphatic. "Can we, Mom? Every Saturday?" "As long as it fits with my work schedule, yes," Sophia promised. "I'll talk to Marco about adjusting my shifts." As they waited at a crosswalk, Luna grew suddenly thoughtful. "Mom, I know Kay isn't my dad, but is it okay if sometimes when I'm drawing or painting, I pretend he is?" "Not because I want a different mom," she added quickly, "but just because." "Because it helps you imagine possibilities?" Sophia suggested gently, remembering Keanu's words to Luna at the cafe. Luna nodded. "Yeah, possibilities." Sophia squeezed her daughter's hand. "I think that's perfectly okay, sweetheart. Imagination is how we explore different ways of being in the world. And you know what? I think Kay would be honored by your imagination." Later that evening, as Luna slept surrounded by sketches of her next painting project, Sophia found herself reflecting on the strange series of events that had unfolded from that moment of embarrassment in the cafe. Her daughter's mistake, running to Keanu Reeves and calling him Dad, had somehow opened a door neither of them had known existed. Not to a father for Luna, exactly, but to a community where her talent could flourish, where her imagination was valued rather than merely tolerated. And perhaps, in a small way, to a healing of the absence that had shaped both their lives, not by filling it completely, but by surrounding it with new possibilities and connections that made its edges less sharp. The napkin with the program information now sat on their refrigerator, held by a magnet shaped like a paintbrush, a small artifact of synchronicity, a reminder that sometimes life's most meaningful turns come from unexpected moments of vulnerability and recognition. And as for Keanu Reeves, who moved through the world with such genuine presence that a child could mistake him for the father of her dreams, perhaps he had received something valuable too. A moment of being seen not for his fame or reputation, but for the qualities that transcended them. The simple human capacity to listen, to encourage, to make space for another's becoming. In the quiet of her apartment, Sophia found herself grateful for the strange alchemy of that morning. How embarrassment had transformed into opportunity, how mistake had blossomed into meaning, and how the simple act of a child running toward what she needed had created ripples that would likely shape her life for years to come. Sometimes, Sophia reflected, our most profound connections begin with the courage to reach for what we imagine might be possible. And in that reaching, whether we find exactly what we sought or something entirely unexpected, we discover new dimensions of belonging that were waiting for us all along.